Thank you. Good evening. It's 6:01 and I'm going to call the Committee of the Whole meeting to order. Attendance, Clerk Snare, we do have quorum. Councillor Bob Morton is going to be a few minutes late. Councillor Scott McLean, we haven't heard back. Good evening. It's 6:01 and I'm going to call the Committee of the Whole meeting to order. Attendance, Clerk Schneider, we do have quorum. Councillor Bob Morton is going to be a few minutes late. Councillor Scott McLean, we haven't heard back. Good evening, it's 6:01. We will get it fixed.
I watched Groundhog Day the other day. I think it wasn't a controversial vote.
I know. Are we good to see that? That's okay. Look at that. Take two and then it's all better now. So it's yeah, so it's 6:02 now, and I'm going to call this Committee of the Whole meeting to order on July 8th at 6:02. So Clerk Snare, we still have quorum, and Councillor Bob Morton's going to be a few minutes late. Councillor Larry Pench is zooming in this evening, so we all see her. We will wave to her. She's waving to us. So I'll move right along. Approval of the agenda, including additions or deletions. So I'm going to take off Council 11C and D. C is municipal complex and D is financial budget. We didn't have the reports in, so as per our meeting and policy procedures, we're going to take that off for this evening. Is there any other additions or deletions? Seeing none, we'll approve that agenda with those two notifications. Any questions on the dashboard action items, the information log, or dangerous or unsightly? Seeing nothing, we'll move along. Declaration of conflict of interest. Does anyone have any conflict of interest? Okay, seeing none, we'll move along to announcements. I have a couple I just want to read here. We acknowledge West Hants Regional Municipality is in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of Mi'kmaq people. This land is governed by the treaties of peace and friendship signed in 1726. West Hants Regional Municipality recognizes we are all treaty people and have responsibilities to this land and each other. West Hants Regional Municipality also recognizes African Nova Scotians are distinct people whose history, legacies, and contributions have reached that part of Mi'kma'ki known as Nova Scotia for over 400 years. Council and I, as chair, we're committed to ensuring this meeting and its participants conduct themselves in a respectful and professional manner as outlined in the municipality's municipal code of conduct. Meeting presenters, staff, and the public are expected to conduct themselves in an equally respectful manner at all times the meeting is being conducted. I thank you all in advance for your commitment to these important meeting policies. So I'll open it up to the floor now. Mayor Zabian, do you have any announcements?
Yeah, through you, Chair. I just want to congratulate the community of Handsport on a wonderful Canada Day celebrations. There was an enormous amount of people throughout the community celebrating our nation's birthday. Also, this past weekend, the Pride celebrations here in Windsor were outstanding. The largest turnout of individuals in its 4-year history. So, and people just came and flooded into our community to support and become allies. It was quite the afternoon. Also, earlier today, Chair, I came across the coloring book that was published by residents of West Hants and Mr. Darren Porter and his daughter Erica. And if you go through it, I would suggest people try to get their hands on one. It's quite relaxing and quite informative if you want to learn a little bit while you're coloring and relaxing and calming down. It's quite the publication. I would highly suggest anybody that is interested get your hands on a copy. It's quite good. I was quite impressed when I came across that. So just want to highlight those. Thank you very much.
Very good. Counselor Remy.
Through you, Chair, I just want to let everybody know that the Sweets Corner Hall is having a Meet Your Neighbor event this Sunday from 11 to 2.
Perfect. Counselor Wheaton.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just want to let everybody know that the Bluegrass Festival is coming up in Ardois. It's going to be the 52nd annual Bluegrass Festival, and I do believe that's the longest running Bluegrass Festival in Canada. It's at the Beachbrook Campground. It runs from July 24th to July 27th, and hope to see a lot of you there. Going to be a good time.
That's great. Seeing Counselor Larry Pinch.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just wanted to remind everybody of the breakfast at the Southwest Hants Fire Hall this Saturday from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. And to watch the Upper Vaughan Schoolhouse for their events. They have some crib events and other events upcoming throughout the summer.
That's great. Seeing no other lights, we're going to move right along to 6, approval of previous meeting minutes. So we have A 2025-0506, Special Committee of the Whole minutes for budget. 2025-0512, Special Committee of the Whole minutes budget. 2025-0514, Special Committee of the Whole minutes. 2025-0522, Special Committee of the Whole minutes. 2025-0528, Special Committee of the Whole minutes. 2025-0602, Special Committee of the Whole minutes, and those were all budget related. Then we have 2025-0610, Committee of the Whole minutes, and 2025-0616, Special Committee of the Whole minutes for budget. Counselor Wheaton.
Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just reading through some of those last night, I did notice there was, I think it's a typo, but under the minutes from the 2025-0616, which would be 6H, under 9A, it has the nays. It has Councillor McLean listed twice. I don't know if that's a typo or if that has any repercussions down the road, but it was a vote and a motion, and there has under the nays, it does have Councillor McLean as twice.
Okay, we'll note that.
Thank you.
Any other Counselor Ivy?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just 2 points actually within the same section. So it's paragraph 8 or the 6th of 7th page there. The reference here to the procedural point that was being made, the specific section, it lists as 12.30 and it should be 12.13A. And the other one is for the last motion. Just let me double check here. It is for the last motion, which is noted as B underneath the subtitle of Dial-A-Ride, but the content of the motion actually makes reference to the Avon River Heritage Museum. And I believe that we actually had Dial-A-Ride in that one, but I'm not sure. So I'm going to ask if the clerk could simply check and update it as appropriate if needed. But there is that issue. The motion for Dial-A-Ride, if it was at that meeting, doesn't appear at the end of it. It may have been earlier. I'm not sure. I couldn't go back that far, but so just those 2 things, that paragraph to be corrected as needed, and the other point. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll make those notes, and Clerk Snare will look at those further. Okay, is there anything else? Seeing none, we're going to move right into presentations. We have
Deputy,
oh, sorry, we have to make a motion to approve those
the ones as amended.
as amended. Yeah.
Yep.
So moved.
Made by Counselor Paul Morton, seconded by Counselor Paul Wheaton. We're going to vote by hands tonight as we have someone zooming in. So all those in favor, signal by hands up. Motion carried unanimously. Thank you, everyone. Now we'll move on to presentations. So we have one presentation this evening. It's Community Solar Project. And we have Tracy, from the Chief Development Officer from Solar Bank, and Joel McNeil, Principal and Senior Engineer from TriMac Engineering. So they are going to come and present. They had a great presentation last evening, so this is going to be a shorter version of it, and then we'll have questions from counselors when they're done.
Good evening, Chair, councilors, committee members, and the staff. Thank you so much for having us tonight. It's our honor to be here. My name is Tracy. I'm the Chief Development Officer from the Solar Bank. This is Joe, our local on the
Sorry, I'm trying to get the thing up here on the share screen. Joel McNeil, one of the principals of TriMac Engineering, and want to thank everyone for having us here this evening. Sorry.
So tonight, we want to propose an exciting community solar potential projects in West Hants. And we want to share with you the background information, what's the program, where's the site location, so what are the companies involved in these projects, and what's the current development process. And also, we'll open the floor for the Q&A. Next slide, please. Okay. So that's the agenda we'll cover. Next, please. So Nova Scotia has been identified as a two key challenge in the electricity generation sector. So one being the high electricity price, average is you're paying 18 cents per kilowatt hour, pretty high. And the other challenge is a high emission in the electricity generation sector. So currently still about 50% coming from the fossil fuel, coal plants, and also the natural gas. So the province already make up the plan. They want to phasing out all the coal plants. They want to shutting down the coal plants by 2030. So where's the electricity come from? So that's the program. They already make up the strategy and the plan. They want by 2030, 80% of the electricity will come from the renewables. A very aggressive goal. But I'm so glad actually, they taking action, make things happen. They already have a rate-based procurement and the green choice program. So those are almost for like large, transmission towers connected projects. They all grant to the wind projects. And the reason Joe and I here today is proposing for the community solar projects in West Hants. So that is a smaller size. We call the solar gardens. It's connecting to the local distribution system. Next slide, please. So how does that work out? The project owners will bring 100% financing for the projects, and they will build on the projects and operating the projects for 25 years. If they got a contract granted, the contract is actually reviewed and granted by the Minister of the Energy. But however, the power purchase agreement is entered with the Nova Scotia Power because they will be the administrator for this program. And the subscribers, which means the local residents, business, if they are interested in use the clean energy, now they do not have to install the solar panels on the rooftop or ground mount. They can just enter paper subscriber agreements with the project owner. So that way they can use the clean energy without the need, taking care of the solar projects, like physically. So there's a number of the benefit for that. Next slide, please. So the solar projects, as I mentioned, is connecting to the distribution system, where that system is actually feeding the electricity to the local community, like houses, hospitals, buildings. They are all in the distribution system. So after this solar system is alive, the reliability of the local electricity supply will be enhanced because now you have a local generation. Next slide, please. So there's other benefit. The subscribers, if they enter the paper, the subscriber agreement, they actually financially got a 2 cents per kilowatt hour off, roughly about 10 to 15% off on their electricity bill. There's no commitment for 25 years. They can exit anytime, and there's no incremental fee for that. It's simply, financial benefit, and also they can use the clean energy in very simple way. So the other benefit, we can help the municipality reduce the emission, and also it's always in our practice when the time during the construction, we hire from the local as much as possible. Our company that is in Toronto, there's no way, we can ship a crew here. And the Joe is an engineering firm, so we always hire from the local. And the contract is for 25 years. So after commercial operation, we'll also hire the local technicians doing the operation maintenance for the 25 years. Next, please. So the project is owned by a SPV, a number company called Special Purpose Vehicle. The parent company is AR Renewable. I will talk a little bit more later. It's a Canadian LP, and the Solar Bank TriMac, we are the co-developer for this project. So AR Renewable is a flow-through Canadian LP headquarter office in Toronto. So they only invest the clean infrastructure renewable energy projects in Canada in order to be qualified for the tax benefit. So because of tax benefit, the investors only have a one single digit return, which means the low cost capital for us, so we can pass more to the communities. So the other benefit they have is, emotional benefit. They also want to be part of the solution to managing the climate change. Solar Bank is us. We are a Canadian solar developer, and we established in 2013, about 12 years ago. So we already developed over 1,000 solar projects in Ontario and also in the US. So for the community solar program, so in Nova Scotia and also in Canada, this is the first one. I think should feel proud of that, leading the chain. But our experience for community solar programs in the US is already have 8 years. So we certainly have a lot of lessons learned in experience, so we can all apply to here. Next slide, please. So together with the local partners, so we managing from very beginning. It's a full vertical integrated process from origination, talking to the landlords, permitting, interconnection with Nova Scotia Power, and work with a community solar program with the minister. And after contract granted, we also work with the financing, engineering studies. We do the engineering design for the solar projects, procurement of material, construction, and after that, we're here for long term. It's a 25 years contract, right? So we actually not end on the commercial operation. So together with the local partners, we still handle the operation maintenance, asset management for 25 years. So our interest is totally aligned with the local. We want to be a long-term member here. So I would say to the public, and also municipality, it's a simple solution because you just need to contact us as one please person. I will pass to Joe.
Okay. So a little more about TriMac Engineering. We are a family-owned engineering firm based here in Nova Scotia. We're headquartered in Sydney, and we have an office in Halifax as well. And we incorporated in 2015. We're celebrating 10 years in operation this year, which we're quite proud of. And we've grown the company from the three originals here to currently we employ 10 engineers and technologists. And we offer mechanical, structural, and electrical engineering to broad range of clients and sectors here in Nova Scotia. And we have active projects all the way from Neils Harbor right down to Yarmouth. And we've been working together with Solar Bank, trying to make some solar projects happen here in Nova Scotia for the last 4 years. And so it's very encouraging to have 3 successful projects under this program so far. And we're here to talk to you about another one we're proposing in West Hands, of course. So the next few slides, I'll go over kind of high level the project here in West Hants. On the screen is an example project. This is a community solar project that Solar Bank has completed in New York State. They have a very similar community solar program there. And this is a 5 megawatt project, very similar size to what we're proposing in West Hants. So it just gives you kind of an idea of the size and scale. So the project we are proposing is going to be located off of Benedict Lane, off of Highway 14. We're proposing a 5.3 megawatt AC solar project. That's enough solar power to power about 700 to 750 Nova Scotian homes. And this project, the panel array area would be about 33 acres. And as I already mentioned, it's proposed to be located off of Benedict Lane, which is off of Highway 14. So a project like this would take about 3 to 4 months to construct with a crew of about 30 to 40. That would be our goal. That's subject to labor availability at the time, of course. If things go smoothly through the rest of the development and we meet our milestones and all necessary approvals and whatnot, we are expecting this project could be online by early summer 2027. And maybe I'll go to the next slide here and hand it back to Tracy.
Sure. So this slide I want to share with you a simplified development process. Currently, this project is still in very early stage of development. We just finished the site assessment. We have a long-term lease entered with a private land. So passed all the preliminary assessment about the topographic, zoning reviews. It's a check with the Nova Scotia Power. There's an interconnection capacity available for the 5.3 megawatts and with a very reasonable interconnection cost. So it's suitable for solar. So that's how we are here. Currently, we're in the step 3, the blue arrows. So we're doing all the engagement activities, clarifying for all the questions from the public, the market, municipal, and we're also seeking for the municipal support letter or resolution from the West Hands. I want to share with you this letter or resolution do not exempt us for any of the compliance about permitting or compliance for the construction. It's a highly regulated business for electricity generation. So whatever the requirement, we are compliant with the government authority, Nova Scotia Power, and also ESA. But this is one of the mandatory requirements from the community solar program. If we want to apply, we have to put this a piece of important information in the package for the proposal submission. So after proposal submission, takes about 3 months for review, and usually have a Q&A benefit. So if we can get a contract granted, then all the detailed study will in place. The detailed system impact assessment with the Nova Scotia Power, and all the engineering detailed studies like geotechnical studies, wetland delineation, wildlife study, all those studies we'll do at that time. And based on all the studies, we'll do the engineering design about the solar projects, do the procurement and the construction. So this is kind of a summary of the development process. So this is a package requirement for the proposal. So as you can see, so mainly it's about engagements, seeking the feedbacks and also clarify all the questions from the First Nation, the local communities, and with the municipal as well. And the municipal support letter of resolution is a mandatory document to be included in the proposal. And also about all the assessments of the land, should be suitable for the projects. And we have to provide a lot of planning, what's our construction planning, financing, what kind of a benefit we can bring the community, and also, interconnection for sure. This capacity must be available for that. So this is our community engagement plan. It's very important. I think we went to the community and the community is welcome for these projects. So we sent out about 60 letters just surrounding this site and inviting the public to the meetings. Just the 2 meetings, one being in person, held last night. January, I think went pretty well. And there's another meetings online for people about 2 weeks later, actually. For people who cannot be in person, they can go to the online. We also have a website just updating about the project information and an ongoing basis. We'll share with the public about the material change about these projects. And also we do all the engagement with the marginalized communities, First Nations, make sure people have opportunity to asking all the questions clarified with us. So this is our subscription plan. So the priority subscription is to the local community, hosting the project here, and also the marginalized community, like a low housing income, senior housing, those will be all our priority subscriber. And if we still have some excessive capacity available, we kind of expanding the area to the adjacent areas, they are also close by, and also the marginalized community, just in case, still have some excessive electricity available, that way will open to the general public. So that's kind of, all the basic information about these projects. We're seeking for your municipal support for these projects and look forward to work with all of you, make this exciting opportunity happen in West End. Thank you so much for your time. So we open to all the questions.
Thank you very much, Tracy and Joel. You did well with the short period of time. It was when we discussed this last night. So you did very well. So I will open it up. And as you mentioned, the community engagement went well last evening. We had, I think, 13 people here. So it did go well. A few of the counselors were here. So I will open it up for questions. So I didn't see whose light was on first.
No
So
difference.
we'll start with Councillor Wheaton and we'll work back this way.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and thank you, Tracy and Joel, for your presentation last night and today. Just one thing that stood out last night when one of the residents had said a solar farm is a real quiet neighbor. Is there any actual noise that's emitted from the panels? Like a hum kind of thing?
So from panels, there's no noise. The panel actually it's more like the silicone, very similar to the material to the window. So there's no noise from the racking, from the solar panels. They're quiet. The only places where could be have a noise is actually transformer. They do have a noise, but that transformer have no difference versus a transformer we installed in the residential area. So it's about like 70 dBA when the time you are like 10 meters away. If you are 100 meters away, it's probably, you can just almost like a very quiet dishwasher, like a 40, 45 dBA. We have a super quiet dishwasher, right? If you are 100 meters away, it's like that. So, and also we have the natural visual screening, the trees around that. So I would say outside of that tree, you will not hear anything, probably hear the wind.
Thank you.
Councillor Remy.
Through you, Chair. Again, I'll just echo it. Great presentation and everything. The online meeting that's on, I saw July 21st. The link for that meeting, if anybody's interested to join, where can they find that link?
Okay, good question. So in the letter, we provide our contact information. Actually, Mila is the contact information. We have all the email there. I think after meeting, we can give you the contact for Mila as well. So just send her an email. It's probably a little bit small here. It's a Mila Simon at solarbancorp.com, and she will send you the link for online meeting. Yeah.
So just on that, then would that be updated on your guys' website as well? Because I know that there was a lot of reference to going to the website to get information. So it would be on there.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Mila, do you want to just come up to the mic? Just so
I'll just confirm for everyone.
yeah.
So we don't post, so we've had issues in the past when you post the Teams link directly on the website, there's technical issues, but we've noticed there's never really technical issues when I invite them to the calendar invite themselves. So that's why on the website, we do have the instruction to email me for the calendar invite. And that way I can ensure that they're able to click join the meeting on their calendar invite. It's a much smoother process like that. Yeah, thank you.
So yeah, so we have a both, like a link, but we also just put the Mila's email over there because just ensure people interested, they can actually pass through the technical issues.
Mayor Zabian.
One question answered already. How does a person subscribe or a resident subscribe? How does that happen? Or how does that work?
Okay, so the province will give us a subscriber agreement if we got a contract granted. So from our side, we actually start to collect, the residents, if they are interested, we put them in the priority list. So only like a basic information, right? Name, their email, and the phone number. So if we can got a contract granted, then we'll contact them, just keep the project updates relationship also warm. It's only about we pass the interconnection detailed study with the Nova Scotia Power, and then they will give us a template about the subscriber agreement. Because without the capacity confirmed, actually there's no viable projects. I think they hold the subscriber agreement after the interconnection has been approved for the project.
Okay.
Great. Any other questions from Councillor Ivey?
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and thank you again, all three of you, for the information shared on this. Certainly an interesting project. The one question I have is it relates to, I think it was 170 homes with the 5 megawatt project that you were talking about?
700.
Sorry, seven. Sorry, yes. So the 700 for the full 5. And you have about 10 other locations in Nova Scotia that you're looking at. Any further expansion beyond that? Like, is this sought to be an initial footprint and then you look to do more? Or what's the future look like for you?
Good question. So for the design of the program, community solar program, they actually do not limit, who can be the as long as they are the Nova Scotia Power customer, they can be the subscriber. But just in our priority subscriber plan, that's why we want to share with the councilors here and the committee member and also to the public, because for us, we set up the prioritized subscribers, because whoever is actually hosting these projects, I think they should be the priority subscriber, and also the marginalized communities, right? We should, give them extra opportunities. And when the time, if it's a senior housing, low income housing, I think we'll put them as a priority. So it's really actually, when the time we managing about the subscribers, we'll put a priority. So only the local residents, right? We're running out of the interest people for the local residents, business, or the marginalized community, then we'll expand the territory to the further adjacent area.
Great. Thank you very much. That's good to hear. Thank you.
Councillor Larry Pinch, did you have a question?
I did. Thank you. So through you, Chair, I'm just curious, when the 25 years is up, what happens? Does that mean the lifespan of the panels is complete and they no longer function, or that's just the recommended lifespan of this project to begin and it could extend beyond 25 years? Or where does the 25 years come from?
Oh, okay. So the 25 years is coming from the PPA, the Power Purchase Agreement, the contract granted by the minister. The program is actually giving us the Power Purchase Agreement for 25 years. But very good question. Actually, the lifespan for the solar project is much longer. It's between 30 to 35 years. At the 30 years, the panels actually still be able to produce minimum 80% of the original the production. So it still, can be work well, actually past the 25 years. So at the end of 25 years, there's a couple options. So if the province still have a program available, can actually feed in to the grid, I think we'll participate, but we also talk to the landowner, right? Whether they continue willing to lease the land, then we'll continue to participate. But if they say, hey, no, I don't want the solar panels anymore, I want to do some other development. So it's our responsibility that decommissioning about the projects away.
Thank you.
Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Deputy. Through you to Tracy or Joel, I just had a question about the panels. Do the panels actually move during the seasons, like to change the angle of attack? I was just curious.
Okay, leave to the.
Sure. So we're planning to use fixed racking for these projects in Nova Scotia. Solar Bank has actually tried tracker, I think it's called single axis tracker. And in this, in an icy winter climate, it's been problematic, mechanical issues. So just fixed racking for these projects is the plan.
Thanks.
Yeah, a little less of a maintenance issue.
Any other questions, Councillor? Mayor Zabian?
Yeah, through you, Chair, our presenters are looking for a letter of support, I believe. I'll make that motion and see if council is interested in it. That the committee of the whole recommends council issue a letter of support for the Solar Bank Nova Scotia Community Solar Program project in West Hants.
Second.
Seconded by Councillor McLean. So I'll look for a vote on the motion. So by hands, because we have a Zoom. So all those in favor of the motion? Motion passed unanimously. Thank you very much, Councillor. Thank you, Joel, Mila, and Tracy. So we will have that letter of support out to you. So best of luck, and we'll share the July 21st date as well. And I have, Mila, your email, and I can send one to council so they have it as well. Okay. Great.
Thank you very much.
Oh, sure.
Okay, council, moving along to 8 unfinished business postponed motions. We have 2025-26 Chalet Hamlet updated taxing resolution recommendation report. Director Rashawn.
Thank you, Your Worship. I won't spend too much time on the report as it was circulated within your package. Upon the finalization of our resolution, we determined that there was an error in the 25-26 Shelley Hamlet Property Association Uniform Charge Resolution of 72 cents. If we could get an updated resolution so that we have the authorization to charge for on their behalf.
Thank you. Is there Mayor Zabian?
I'll make that recommendation, Chair, if I may. Council approves the updated 2025-2026 Chalet Hammett Property Owners Association uniform charge as presented to council on July 8, 2025.
Second it.
Made by Mayor Zabian, seconded by Councillor John Smith. Is there any questions on it? If not, I will quickly read it. Council approves the updated 2025-2026 Shelley Hamlet Property Owners Association uniform charges presented to council on July 8th, 2025. So council, all those in favor, a show of hands. Motion carried. Thank you, everyone. That was quick and easy. Moving on to 8B, Code of Conduct, appointment of second investigator recommendation report, Clerk Snare.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Also, this report was circulated in advance within the agenda package. Just a little brief overview. At the June 24th meeting, council approved entering into a contract with Bardsley Investigation Solution. However, the firm later informed the municipality they were unavailable for a 3 to 6 month timeframe due to a prior commitment, though they remained willing to fulfill the contract afterwards. We are bringing forth this recommendation to ensure that the continuity of the handling the code of conduct investigations during the period. So we're recommending the appointment of a second investigator in the meantime.
Okay. Is there any questions for Clerk Snare? If Councillor Ivey.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So I guess a couple of questions, if I could. The first one is that they applied for the RFP that went out. It was a tendered RFP. And if they can't make the time frame, I don't know that they would make the cut list. And I know that we went through that process and it was based on the fact that they could, but if they couldn't make it, then they should A, not have applied, or B, they should have told us at the time that we were talking about this a month ago that they weren't able to make it. Can we get a comment on that? Because it appears that A, they were slightly more, I think, than the secondary person we're dealing with now. That how did we find ourselves in this situation?
Clerk Snare.
So through you, Madam Chair, to Councillor Ivey's question, we didn't actually release the RFP. AMANS, the Association of Municipal Administrators of Nova Scotia, released it. And at that time, they made the cut. It wasn't until afterwards that this disclosure was released. Or disclosed, I should say. Through AMANS, they have remained on the list and they've communicated that with them. It's just in the interim that they've taken on this prior commitment that has lessened their ability to take on any code of conduct investigations.
Okay, thank you for the added clarity on that. That's greatly appreciated. So then the follow-up is it our intent to only use, we'll call the additional investigator for a short-term period, or is it that we're taking them on to be the investigator versus starting with 6 months, then moving to somebody else? I think the report indicates that they're bridging time here, but I just want to be clear about that. If I could, through you, Madam Chair.
And if you want, through you, Madam Chair. So my understanding would be that we would post both investigators on there and leave it to the public to make their choice and who they choose to raise their concern with, and that investigator would lead. The costs are similar for each investigator, so at no time would both investigators be investigating the same complaint, but it would be up to the individual to give them an option of a second investigator.
Thank you. And then the last question I have is, I know at the previous meeting, we determined that there was no retainer or base fee for the selected individual. Is that the same case with the second one?
Through you, Madam Chair, that is the same case with the second investigator as well.
Great. Thank you very much.
Okay, seeing no other questions, there is a motion that was in your package. Mayor Zabian.
I'll move council recommends that Mobile Resource Group be appointed to the secondary investigator and that the CAO be authorized to enter into a contract on behalf of West Hants Regional Municipality.
Made by Mayor Zabian.
Second it.
Seconded by Counselor John Smith. So council recommends that Mobile Resource Group be appointed as a secondary investigator and that the CAO be authorized to enter in a contract on behalf of the West Hants Regional Municipality. So by a show of hands, all those in favor? Okay, so just leave your hands up for a second because I've had one up and one down. Okay, 11-4. Those against, Counselor Scott McLean. So motion is passed. Okay, moving along, 8C, Upper Burlington Land Donation Request for Decision Report, CAO Phillips.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You have in your report a bit of the background associated with the parcel of land owned by the municipality to support a future daycare operation, which I believe it was 2 months ago. We had a presentation from the group that is leading that, a non-for-profit group that is leading that. So this report, for the most part, lines out the process for council should they decide to support this request and make a donation of land or something below market value, which I believe was the request and the intent of it. So we've kind of, again, laid it out for you there with respect to the process, and there is a recommended, there is a suggested recommendation there in the section on page 2, I think it is, for you to review. So I won't get into the details of the whole report. You've had it.
Yeah.
However, as we continue to kind of do some research around this property, we want to continue to be transparent so that when we go through the public process, should council go that route, that it kind of everything is there. So Director Kehoe's continue to do a bit of research around the property. And in the early 90s, we had a request. The municipality of the day had a request, actually it was in 1997, about a fundraising campaign and a memorial type movement to a Mr. Robert C. Smith, known as Bobby Smith. And at that time, their intent was to essentially to develop that site and to create a more active play space. We can't find any records that the municipality supported that or that activity took place, but we just wanted to be transparent so that if you do go down this road and folks show up to say, well, what about this and what about that? We have had ongoing dialogue with the chair of the Upper Burlington Community Hall Association, which we are also relying on them as a bit of a local historian, we'll say, with respect to the relationship between the hall and the municipality's land. And they are in favor of supporting or amending, because they have a lease as well for the use of the land associated with their activities that they originally had thought they would do or that they currently do. There is a small walking trail on the site. There's a small interpretive panel there talking about some of the history of the area in general. So all things to date indicate either through the Upper Burlington Community Hall Association or our dialogue with the community that this is something that would be supported. We're just giving you a little bit of foreshadowing to some of the history, which we find a bit refreshing as we've kind of dug into this site, and that these may be things that pop up as things that are sensitive to the area or things that they may want to preserve. Again, there's some pictures there. I think these are Kathy's pictures. You'll see there's a walking trail there. So, if you're optimistic and positive about it, there's probably an opportunity to either maintain a trail and some of these pieces that looked like they more historically served the community just because of, I guess, the condition of it. But that these may be things that we incorporate into the site if it progresses. But so there's some community use. We feel like we have the endorsement of at least the Upper Burlington Community Hall Association. But as council goes through this public process, if that's the direction that they go, then there may be other feedback endorsing it or asking about what about these other pieces. So I will end it there if there's any questions, but there is a motion there for your consideration as well.
Thank you, CAO. So council will open up for questions. Any questions on it? If not, there is a few options, and one of the options does have a recommendation. Counselor Yanish.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Regarding if the chief CAO would initiate the rezoning process, am I correct in thinking that that would be a faster option than the daycare association pursuing the rezoning?
So Director Fugier is here. She might speak on timing. We have built into the report a bit of an assumption that, at least with respect to the process, that we would lead the process to help the group. So I'm not sure that it would be any more expedient, because I think we can allow a future property owner to proceed with a rezoning application so long as the current property owner gives the endorsement or approval process. So I don't know that it affects timing, but it probably may in the end, because we can administer it and process it as the owner. That answers your question.
Yeah, through you, Chair. Yeah, that would be my assumption, that somehow it would be faster for the municipality to undertake it. And I think from the last conversation I had with the group, the earlier that the rezoning could happen and that this transaction could take place, the more likely they are to be able to benefit from other funding sources, particularly the province. Okay. So I would encourage to follow that we follow this option that the CAO submits the application.
Thank you. Mayor Zabian.
Just to follow up on Councillor Yanish's comments, Chair, I believe it'd be an easier process for the group as well. Sometimes groups who have an intention to do one course of business aren't up to speed on the process involved. So it may be a benefit to them as well if we undertook that on our end as well. Also the costs associated with it. If they were to do an application, there may be a request to cover costs on that side. So I think it keeps it cleaner on our end and more expedient, as Councillor Yanish had brought up. So
that's great. Councillor Ivey.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just two questions in the discussion point there. One is the parks and open space. There's a reference there to agricultural significance to the municipality through you, Chair, to the CAO. And then the other is as it relates to, I think, First Nations, Mi'kmaq, Acadian history in the area. Any of those items seem to be issues down the road as it relates to this property. And then second question I have, I'll follow up with after that.
Yeah. I'm not, and again, Director Kehoe may be able to help with this, whether that particular parcel has that significance of, yeah. So we're not aware that it does, other than anecdotally within the area. And the panel, I think that is in one of the photos, kind of speaks generically to the area.
Right.
I know it's not legible. We can't read it here because that's not too bad, actually. Looks better on big screen.
So it's not this lot itself, then it's just generically in the area. Am I correct?
That's our understanding to date, but that may be part of a process as we go through our public process.
Okay.
We'll dig deeper.
Yeah.
But again, this is a bit of a history lesson for ourselves, because it predates, well, certainly predates consolidation. And I think it was challenging Kathy's early years as a recreation director. So we will continue internally, and we may find other sources in the community that indicate the relevance or its association with, but not specific to this parcel.
Sure. Thank you. And then the one other question I had is you'd made reference, sorry, Madam Chair, through you to the CAO. You'd made reference to the trails there and possible maintenance of those and so forth. Are those also part of the lot or surrounding the lot?
Yeah. They're more or less on the property lines. I think, I don't know if we have an aerial there. Yeah, it would be the aerial, but they're closer to the boundaries of the property.
Okay.
Yeah. And again, Kathy, I think you walked them. It feels like it goes down the old Walton Woods Road side of the property, which would be to our right on the screen. And then it kind of cuts down towards, I guess that would be our southwest boundary and then kind of loops back around. I don't think it's a perimeter trail. It just kind of comes down the old Walton Woods Road side and then across that lower boundary.
Okay.
Again, community, we're not out there doing any of that work as a municipality. It's a community-led thing to date. And again, back to that Community Hall Association that they are either endorsing or support of this. But I just say that anecdotally, a trail for a daycare, it probably has some value.
Absolutely.
Probably some synergies there in what the group has done now and what it might look like moving forward.
That's great for me. Thank you.
Any other questions, council? So I'm looking for direction. We do have a motion there. Councillor Yanish.
I can read the motion.
Sorry. The clerk is just suggesting we deem it surplus, but I think we could probably do the rezoning one first. Procedurally. Okay, let's see what Director Gia says.
Sorry, if I may, Madam Chair. In order to proceed with rezoning, the planning department would need this property to be deemed surplus because right now it's open space and there's no, I guess, policy pathway to rezone open space unless it's considered surplus.
Thank you.
Okay, let me just sit tight. So step one might be to make a recommendation that parcel PID 4528, whatever the number is, deemed surplus, see where that lands with council. And then step two perhaps is for that motion to proceed.
I would make that motion,
Sure,
Madam
Councillor
Chair.
Yanish.
Council deems a lot of land known as PID 452-85103 as surplus.
Made by Councillor Yanish.
Second.
Seconded by Councillor Ivy. Any questions on the motion? We're deeming PID 4528510 as surplus. 03, sorry. Okay, I'll look by show of hands. All those in favor? Motion carried. Thank you. So we do have another recommendation now that it's deemed surplus. We're good to go. Councillor Yanish.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would move that council directs the Chief Administrative Officer to submit an application to the Planning and Development Department to consider rezoning PID 452-85103 to provide an opportunity for the Hants Shore Child Care Association to explore establishing a licensed child care center to serve families in the Hants Shore area.
Second.
Made by Councillor Yanish, seconded by Councillor McLean. So we're voting on council directs the Chief Administrative Officer to submit an application to the Planning and Development Department to consider rezoning PID 452-85103 to provide an opportunity for the Hants Shore Child Care Association to explore establishing a licensed child care center to serve families in the Hants Shore area. All those in favor by show of hands? Motion carried unanimously. Thank you very much, everyone. Exciting times for the Hants Shore. Okay, moving right along, 8D, Municipal Complex Information Report, CAO Phillips.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As noted, this information report and a bit of I guess a bit of a history lesson here in the municipal complex discussion from consolidation through to today. So I know that other councillors, I think Councillor Ivy was thinking about it and thinking about a report, and I know his worship has something after this. So I'm not sure how you want to blend the conversations, but this essentially is a report that tries to create a bit of a timeline with respect to some of the deliberations that the previous council had around this subject and where we land today. I have suggested in the next steps or recommended actions, I think, that this council should dedicate some time. This is a significant project. It's a significant decision to make around a complex and a lot of history and a lot of moving parts that I do believe this is a potentially a standalone subject for council to discuss, either at a strategy session or a workshop. However, that is up for council. You do have all of the information in SharePoint. Again, you kind of have to navigate through that. So we appreciate, that may not be fair to just kind of navigate through that on your own. Maybe this report helps you navigate through those reports and when they were written and the significance and all the rest. But there's many moving parts to date. It can be as simple as council pointing us in a direction of one facility or the other, or again, have a bit more wholesome discussion around all the reports to date, which is what we're suggesting our next steps. But again, so any questions, we're happy to answer them and see which direction we want to move.
Thank you, CAO. So council, I'll turn it over to you if there's any questions. We've been through this. There's a lot of information in there, and I think it was well done to give us all the information instead of going to look for it. So we do have another report right after this one from Mayor Zabian. We can kind of link the two, or Councillor Ivy has his light, so we'll go and see if there's any questions for Councillor Ivy.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And yeah, it seems like we've got commonality, I think, around the table generally in the interest in seeing what we do with the buildings, which is, what's about to come before us. But I think it's also the only thing that I want to say is not a question about the report, because we've talked about it several times over the last 4 years, 5 years. But I still go back to the importance of that analysis on whether it's a lease or whether it's a build or whether it's a renovation. And the reason I go back to that again is the motion that came from the coordinating committee back in 2019-20 was with approval with this getting passed on to council subject to future or further financial analysis being done. And so that's, and even if they hadn't put that in as part of the recommendation, is that I believe that in looking at this, there's 3 options. And now our decision-making process has gotten a bit more complex from the standpoint that to the report coming from the mayor, I believe, which I won't, get inside that at all, except to say that, we've got more buildings now than we started with, and that we have the courthouse now in play. And if we start to look at buildings from an asset standpoint as to what we have, where we have properties, then that field gets even bigger. So I think it's important not to lose sight of the fact that I think that that motion from a couple of years ago is still valid, that we see cost comparison on lease, renovate, build, to see where we stand. Thank you.
Any other questions? Mayor Zabian.
Yeah, through you, Chair. I guess to all of council, I think it'd be okay to blend the two items together because they kind of overlap, and instead of going from one to another. As referenced earlier, we do have multiple municipal assets or buildings as to refer to, and at our last meeting, our final budget meeting, we were discussing public works or sorry, outside operations building, and then we have the courthouse now in play, and then we have 2 municipal complexes which we've been discussing for a while. We just went through multiple budget sessions with a lot of information in those, so I know where I think I land on it, but as a group, I think council a good meeting, like a good strategy meeting to discuss it as a whole overlook is probably better suited for us as a new group to get our heads wrapped around it before we start making recommendations on what to do. So I'd be more inclined to direct staff to set up that strategy session, Chair, and just for us to have that discussion on the whole picture rather than just one aspect of the picture at this point.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing Councillor Yanish.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, we've been thinking about this for a long time. And particularly thinking about the number of sessions we had to discuss the last budget, where a lot of the financial where the financial picture was a bit of a surprise, I think, for some of us. I think that to properly address the issue of these municipal complex and the municipal buildings, I think we have to have a better sense of what we mean by growth. I think we're making a lot of assumptions. We've made a lot of assumptions over the last 4 or 5 years that we're a growing municipality, but we haven't really considered what growth means or how we want to evaluate it. And I think that is very critical when it comes to trying to assess on what buildings we need and how we might move forward. And I was going to address some of these issues further on in the discussion about taxation under new business. But I think it's worthwhile to bring it up, at least start to bring it up now as part of this discussion. And that I think is really time that we come to grips with the idea of growth and what that means. And then that would give us better context for making some of these really important decisions about buildings, and particularly the municipal complex. So more on that later in the discussion about taxation.
Great, thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Remy.
Through you, Chair. And just a question. I know that there was discussion, because with this, if we're looking to house staff primarily for many of our municipal complexes, or, when we're looking at everything in general, I know that there was talk of an organizational review and, looking at that structure and understanding how many staff we have and, who needs offices and who works remotely now and who needs to be on site, all of those types of things. I think that would be an important part to have in the discussion as well. And who needs to be together. I think that those aspects of it need to be part of that discussion too. So I know that, I know that that is supposed to be happening or happening now, but yeah, I think that would be important to have with us as well.
Okay. Councillor Ivey.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just certainly supportive of the comments that have been made, across the aisle here for sure. And by way of buildings, and again, it depends on how wide a net we want to cast on that, because I've had people during budget talking about what we have for fire stations. I've had people talk about different matters. We've got a sports complex that has the ability potentially to be expanded upon. There's all kinds of options out there that we could be looking at. And so the bigger the holistic view we take, perhaps we may get a better sense as to where we want to land. It may complicate things to start with, but I think we really need to look at people, and B, where we need to store equipment, assets, and everything else that we have. Certainly the conversation that we had on the outside plant and community development involvement with the building and so on certainly shifted the gears on this in some fashion for a number of people you need in the building and so forth. If you look back at conversations we had back in 2020, and even then talking about our capacity to have people working at home because of COVID, but now it's a different thing as to whether that. So everything gets a lot broader when you start to widen that out. But I think it's important to figure that out. There's a lot of money within the existing buildings, and it's going to be a fair bit in whether you renovate, build, lease, whatever you decide to do. So that's my final comment at this stage, I think.
Councillor John Smith.
Thank you, Chair. So my thoughts are we need to have a plan for all the municipal employees. Personally, I think we have enough information to go on at the moment. And I don't think we should be looking at a 40-year plan. I think it should be just 20-year plan. You don't know what the future holds. We learned that through COVID with all the people working at home. Things can change so quickly. Those are my comments.
Anyone else? Mayor Zavian.
Yeah, again, they're all valid comments. They're valid points, and it's helpful. Again, because they're so varied, I think the strategy session is probably the most appropriate next step Chair, and I think the group can get to a place where it needs to get to in a correct period of time. Just I think the next step would be the strategy session. So I'll move that the committee will direct staff to set up that strategy session to discuss this topic ASAP.
Motion made by Mayor Zabian, seconded by
Second.
Councillor Bonnie Smith. Councillor Wheaton, you had your light on. Did you have, no, okay. No further questions. I don't have the motion. You heard it. So all those in favor, signal by hands up. Okay, motion passed unanimously. Thank you, everyone. So I'm assuming we are good to skip over 8E because we sort of tied that all in together. I just want to make sure. So we're now down to 9 reports, CAO activity update, information report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Be brief. One topic that I would discuss is the Department of Emergency Management CAO Advisory Table. So I'm one of, feels like probably about a dozen CAOs in the province that sits on that table. And we have the Deputy Minister there as they are creating I guess the different divisions of their department, with emergency management being the primary area of focus that they're working on, and we're having some dialogue around what their future regulations would look like. With respect to the municipality here, I guess I'd back up a little bit and say we have some municipalities in the province that are either doing little because of their size and scale, or they have not had an event to their benefit, but to the lack of experience, it's a detriment. So we have some municipalities that are, we'll say starting from the ground zero, and we have others like HRM and CBRM that are kind of excelling and out there because of the resources that they have. And I would put us somewhere in the middle with respect to having a plan in place and resources and experience and so forth. So, but I do believe these regulations will be pulling us up, so to speak. Pulling us up meaning increasing our core requirements, probably more around exercises and training and community mobilization and connectivity. So, and ultimately that probably translates into a dedicated staff resource. So there's some of these things that are being discussed at that table, some of which we may discuss later in an agenda, but I just bring that to your attention. We also have the benefit of hearing of kind of some of the coming and goings of the fire service review, then the policing review, of which those things will be dissecting police advisory board, the policing review, for example, get a little bit more background information as we learn more about that report, for example. Skipping down to another section in my report, just talking about community beautification. It's a popular thing now, and Director Keogh and her team are getting all the flowers, and whether they be planters or baskets, out and around. And there's always a little bit of a lag in getting things either resituated. So we just ask for your patience and the public's patience as these things go out and as they kind of settle into where they're going to be for the season, and as our staff comes on board. I know Kathy and her team have a lot of students, so they're kind of coming to us now. So we'll be playing a little bit of catch up on some of the beautification initiatives, but I think by all accounts so far, hopefully another successful year for that piece. Another last piece perhaps as a highlight is that council's looking forward to a strategy session or workshop with CBCL on July 16th on the Windsor Stormwater Study. So you'll find there's some continuation of the work to date, and also perhaps some positive alternatives that some of the modeling have provided. So we kind of look forward to meeting with you on that, and hopefully coming to a bit of a conclusion on this phase of the work that they're doing, and then perhaps some direction or decision making from council down the road with respect to how we want to respond to that study, and what's short term and long term perhaps projects. So that's my report, some highlights.
Great. Is there any questions for CAO on his report? Councillor Ivey.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, CAO. To the CAO, excuse my running of the words there together. So the first question I have, so we have the workshop session schedule with CBCL, and I think the report's been over a bit. When will we get to see that report so that we aren't walking in blind? And I'll just add to that too is they've historically shown up and they've had the presentation, which we hadn't seen in advance, so you've got a lot of things going on to try and track what they're saying. Plus, if the ability exists that we can get that in advance to be able to at least do a cursory read. Can you give us a sense of that, CAO?
Just, Director Richard is there. Is there any reason why we couldn't release that draft? Yeah, please. I don't see why there would be, but other than.
Yeah, no reason not to share it with council, but it is draft. Our only ask is it doesn't get shared publicly because there will be revisions and corrections in that draft report. But yeah, I can find it and circulate it to council tonight if you wish.
And then with respect to the slides, I mean, perhaps when they have it ready, we can release it. I know it's sometimes for those folks, it's, they're putting it together almost last minute sometimes.
Absolutely.
So I'm confident it won't have anything that's not in the report, but if the sooner we can get that to you, we will.
That's great. Thank you very much for that. And I think my other question may fit in. The mayor has an item on here regarding the budget process and so on. I may be able to slide it in there given some of the earlier conversation comments. So thank you.
Great. Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you, CAO, for your report. And we're going to move right along to 10, correspondence, information. Correspondence received ledger as of July 4th, 2025. 1, Emily Carroll, letter to West Hants Regional Municipality regarding serious safety and zoning concerns, proposed childcare center, PID 4528510. 2, West Hants Uniac Community Health Board letters to WHRM regarding advocacies for emergency shelter funding. 3, and I'll just go through all of these right now. Council, Attorney General and Minister of Justice letter to WHRM regarding comprehensive policy review update. 4, Kathleen O'Brien regarding telecommunication tower procedure. And 5, Acadia's Environmental and Sustainability Studies letter to Premier on uranium exploration. West Hants Regional Municipality was copied. So those are the correspondence we have received. Number 2, correspondence sent as of July 4th, 2025, West Hants Regional Municipality letter regarding urgent concerns regarding uranium exploration and need for increased transparency. So those were correspondence. So I'm going to move right along to 11, and 11A is just a notice of motion, a policy change, amending the time period required to provide a notice of reconsideration, reducing it from 14 days from Councillor Ivy. And B, a notice of motion, a policy change, amend section K, an audit committee composition from Councillor Ivy. So we will see those at council in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, I'll provide reports with the background on those. I think is
Great.
we don't do notices of motion very often, but I think a basic report is appropriate with both of those. Just
Great.
Thank you.
We'll look forward to that. Thank you. So C and D has been taken off the agenda. So we'll move right into E, West Hants 2026-27 budget process recommendation report. Mayor Zabian.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Through you to Council. Again, we just we're very fresh off approving the current year's budget, operating reserve, capital, et cetera, et cetera. It was many sessions that we went through to get to somewhere where council felt comfortable. And every year when we go through that process, Chair, we always look back and we think, what could we have done better? What did we do good on? And we try to tweak it. And looking forward to next year's budget, just the following recommendations may help council get to somewhere in a more expedient manner or have more of an input before we see a draft budget. So again, 3 recommendations. I'll just get into them and maybe we'll get to debate of council if they wish. But the first one would be council direct staff to hold public participation feedback meetings regarding the 2026-2027 budget during the month of October 2025.
Motion made by Mayor Zabian.
Second.
Seconded by Councillor Paul Morton. Is there any discussion on the motion? Counselor Ivy.
Yeah, just a question, I guess, as to what we'd look at or consider by way of public input on the budget process at that point in time. Is that looking for areas they look to see us invest in more? Like, what's the nature of the kind of input we'd look to get from the public at that point so early in the cycle? Just to kind of know what we're thinking makes it easier to set up a session or how you look to structure a session like that, I think.
Mayor Zabian?
Yes, through you, Chair, to my colleague and to council as a whole. Everything. We always invite public to have a engagement on our budget process. But when you think about it, council, there's no real opportunity. I don't know. I was thinking back and I was trying to remember a session where we had public actually discuss with us about the budget, or that we went out and we gauged their opinion on the budget, or leading up to a budget or after a budget. I just couldn't recall. So I thought, just an open public engagement on upcoming budget. Somebody may bring something up from this past budget cycle, or something they wish to see going forward, or something with the process. Maybe you guys tweak it like this. Is it more everyday, like real numbers, or is it just 3-year averages that we're looking at? I don't. It could be multiple things that are brought up. I just don't know, because we haven't really had those engagements with public on the budget. So I thought a good session beforehand, and in October I threw out a month, thinking, it's far enough into the cycle that we started, but yet enough time to have council think about those comments, and then kind of know where we want to fall for the next cycle that we're going to proceed with in the spring or late spring, or depending on the next following motions, maybe later, maybe earlier. Just to help us maybe give somewhat initial instructions to staff before they start working on the next draft budget.
Counselor Yanish.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I think that could be quite the mayor's suggestion could be quite constructive, and but I think that we don't want to go. The municipality wouldn't want to go into those sessions unprepared, and I think that just relying on previous budget documents may not be adequate if we really want to find out what the public wants. And what I would anticipate is that there will be a lot of wants. And I think because of that, we need to prepare. And this gets back to my earlier comments about growth. I think we need to be prepared to have a bit of a discussion with the public about growth and where the municipality stands. And so, for example, one of the statistics that I think is really important to understand is our population. And this is a question that I asked 1 or 2 years ago, that we, council, be informed about where our population is and how it's growing. And that I believe I had asked for something, annually, some report annually. And to the best of my knowledge, we haven't gotten that information. But once we have the information about our population, then we can use that against some of our expenses, for example, like policing, like recreation, like fire, whatever we want. And it's not that the information is going necessarily be critical, but it gives a new perspective or a different perspective on our financial situation and the growth that we're going through. And so I think that is could be really, really important. And on that note, one other bit of information I think would be useful is that I think it's in January, we receive the information from the Property Valuation Corporation. I know I'm missing a piece there.
SVC.
And we are given the value of the tax roll. I think it would be really, really valuable to have that broken down into the increase in assessment due to the actual valuations of property and the increase that's or that part of it that is due to increased development. We need to separate the two out. And if we can do that, and it's not only for next year, but for the previous years, I think that information should be available. And then we'll understand to much greater detail what growth is where our growth is coming from and how much development is taking place. And if we do that, then I think we'll have a much better, a much greater ability to handle our finances in the future.
Very good points, Councillor Yanish. Councillor Remy.
Through you, Chair, I just wanted to make mention of a few meetings ago, I think I talked about at one of the conferences, the town of Digby does a session every year with their budgeting where they bring in everybody that they fund. So it was like the police, CRCMP, EMO, somebody from recreation or whatever. And that was the way that they engaged their public in their taxation processes and stuff and got feedback from them. That way they could understand or get a better grip on where their tax dollars are going and those types of things. So I think something like that would be phenomenal. I know that they always get a really big turnout for that. But I did just want to mention one thing that when I read this, I was super excited as a newly elected councillor because I was thinking, how amazing would this be to come in? Because I mean, even if you're campaigning during that time, you could take part in those consultations or whatever in October. And then if it was like the end of November when you had the budget, session or workshop or whatever. Anyway, I was just thinking how lovely that would be for anybody coming into it because then you have time to reflect on it, lots of time to reflect on it before you have to make decisions. And it can be based on the input from the community. So I thought that that was phenomenal.
Councillor Larry Pinch.
So I think just kind of in line with what my other councillors have said. But I think it would be important for us to hear from residents as a council as a whole, like in a public participation setting, simply because us coming and saying, oh, this is what we heard while we were out on the doorsteps, or this is what we heard from phone calls. It doesn't necessarily hold the same value if you didn't see it in color, if that makes sense. Like sometimes the experience is different, which can change how you perceive those requests and how you think about them. So I do think it would be a good idea moving forwards.
Great. Okay, Councillor Ivy.
Yeah, just a couple of closing comments. First one is the question I was asking about this at the front end, just to make sure it was clear. It's not that I am supportive of it, but it's to know in advance. So what's the structure of that sort of a session going to be held like? Is it workshop? Is it, 2 or 3 seminars throughout the day to the comment where you could cover off on different areas of the organization? So it's educational and also with the feedback or information coming. It's just that we think about that in the context of what we want to get the most out of the session. So I do support it very much so. And I like what I heard even by way of that. To the other comment about being prepared, I think it's really important, especially given the budget process that we just went through. And I know within the minutes in the general conversation, there is the amount of time that we spent on capital related matters, and specifically as it related to the outside plant building and the value associated with that, A, by way of importance, and B, by way of cost. But the other thing that we shouldn't lose sight of, and this is where I think this year we really ended up spending most of our time, had to do with when we started off with the proposed tax rate increase of, and I'm rounding at 10 cents, I think it was at 9 before we landed in the room, and then to 6 and then to 4. And that being driven by prior decisions in using reserves to buffer the tax rate within West Hants. And so I think it's really important as part of this exercise. I'm not sure if I'm about to cut off.
Yeah, well, just trying to get the question to the motion, so we're not rehashing what we've done.
Well, I'm not looking to rehash it, but I think it's vitally important that we know that because when we got information in the last meeting about how those reserves have been used, we went from $250,000 a couple of years to zero and then up to 1.2 million. And that did not happen just overnight. That's not possible. We need to know that information before we land in that session, because otherwise we'll see the same thing coming back a year from now. So whatever it is for either the director of finance or the CAO to inform this council, but that was the big change that we saw this year more than anything else was that, and we can't go into a session with the public and not know the answer to that. I think that's very important. And the other final comment is there's conversation out there about tax parity, and where we've still got the rates where they're staggered throughout. And in hindsight, if we'd left it at 10 cents, we would have gotten closer to the parity, but it wouldn't have been a fair way of doing it. It wouldn't have been a planned way of doing it, I don't think. So we need to think about that as well. I think this is a really good suggestion that's been put forward by way of timing, input at the front end, and also getting it from the residents. But those are things we really need to get inside, I think, too. Thank you.
Mayor Zabian.
Yeah, I think my colleagues are reading my mind for our next meeting of council, which I'll be bringing a couple reports back, I think touching on both my colleagues on either side of me here on items that they brought up, but that's for the next meeting. But again, just for council to give direction, Chair, on holding these meetings, and then staff, there's a lot of time for us to piece it together on the structure of the meetings and to make it meaningful. But just if council was interested in having those meetings and beginning the process of maybe having a different budget session come next year, but that's what I'm trying to lead up to. But
yeah. Well, we have a motion on the floor, so it's council direct staff to hold public participation feedback meetings regarding the 26-27 budget during the month of October 25. So if everyone's good, well, I see no more lights. All those in favor, signal with hands up. Motion passed unanimously. Thank you. Mayor Zabian, you have another.
There is a second one there, Chair. I'll just put it out there that council direct staff to prepare to host a budget workshop with council following the public participation feedback meetings to get initial direction from council on the draft budget for 2026-27.
Made by Mayor Zabian, seconded by Councillor Paul Morton. Any questions on the motion? Being none, so I will ask for the vote on council direct staff to prepare to host a budget workshop with council following the public participation feedback meetings or get initial directions from council on the draft budget for 2026-2027. All those in favor, signal by hands up. Motion carried unanimously. Thank you. And you have a third motion there.
Yeah, and again, on the third motion, I think it's important because we have gotten pretty late into the year or going into summer on getting our budgets passed, and it leaves very short period of time until from the time we send out the budget or the new tax bills. I think August 1st is when we start sending out, or late July anyway. So it doesn't give much time in there for staff to prepare and get it all organized. That's a large amount of time needed. But so just if we can get our budget earlier and have council go through that. So council direct staff to present the draft 2026-2027 municipal budget to council no later than March 1st, 2026.
Made by Mayor
Second.
Zabian, seconded by Councillor Paul Morton. Any questions on the motion? Councillor Remy.
Through you, Chair. And just if my memory serves, many years ago, Councillor Matheson made a motion regarding the budget, that there was a deadline for that. I'm just saying, like, there is a motion on the books somewhere about the deadline for the motion or for the budgets being passed. I'm not sure if it's relevant anymore. I mean, I feel like it's a motion on the book, so it probably should be followed. But there is definitely a motion as far as the deadline for the time for the budget to be passed. Not to say that this motion isn't important, but there is one somewhere in the books.
Mayor Zabian.
Yeah, this one is just for this next current budget year. So I would assume I would make it every year just to keep it fresh and current, and each council may feel differently. I can't recall previous to 2016. I just don't. Yeah. But this one is for the current year, and I'll just continue on if it's the Wolf Council every year to carry on that way.
Councillor Ivey.
Thank you, Chair. I guess the one question I'd want to ask about this is whether we believe that March 1st is a date that we think is I don't want to use the word acceptable, but if that still functionally works, and I put it in this context that that's only 30 days before we're out of the end of the existing fiscal, which if we look at all the things we have going on here, we've got capital projects that can't go to tender and the like. And now we're as of March, you're into a construction season. And so do you want to say it's March 1st, or you want to see the first draft, at least a starting conversation coming back closer to the likes of February 1st or February 14th, if you want to do a St. Valentine's Day kind of a thing. But there's got to be a way to figure that out, that we've got the ability to go through it, to digest it, and have that initial dialogue with staff to give feedback. And we're leaving 30 days if we're at March 1st date. I'd encourage us to think about that.
Mayor Zabian?
Yeah, it's a great comment from my colleague. I believe the motion reads no later than March 1st, 2026. So if staff have something prepared earlier, it definitely leaves it open, whether it's a capital budget to come to council before, or reserve budgets or anything of the sense, but no later than March 1st, 2026 is how it reads. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Councillor Yanish.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I have no problem seeing the budget, the draft budget come before us sooner, but it seems to me every year when we start coming to grips with the budget, people are asking for up-to-date figures on various expenditures or revenues, and often they're not available because not enough time has elapsed to allow the finance department to process the information. So I just wouldn't want us that we put ourselves in a position where we're trying to, almost expedite the process and then not have the information to support it.
Okay. Good comment. Any other comments? Being no, Councillor Larry Pinch. No, she's fine. Nothing further. So we have a motion on the floor. Council directs staff to present the draft 2026-27 municipal budgets to council no later than March 1st, 2026. So all those in favor signal by show of hands. So we have 11 yays, and all of those opposed be Councillor Yanish. So motion was carried. Thank you very much. So that was it. Great conversations. Moving along, new business F, Windsor Community Center Structural Assessment Information Report, Director Keogh.
Before you is the information report regarding the draft Windsor Community Center condition assessment. The work within the report included the structural assessment, accessibility assessment, and to inform the ability for the structure to withstand the installation of solar panels. So you have the report. If you have any questions, I will try to answer them. If I can't, I'll have to get the information for you. But there's also recommendations within that will help staff and council, I guess, identify future capital projects within the facility. So
great. Are there any questions for Director Keogh? Councillor Iden.
Thank you, Chair. Just through you, Director Keogh. So I read your report and gone through, and I see the notation about prioritization of the capital projects in order of magnitude, and some of them based on need and others based on dollar amount. Any sense of significance as it relates to what you have for a list there, Kathy, to work our way through, given the budget that we've just gone through? Anything there that is strikingly out of sync with what you were expecting to see as part of that process?
I'm not sure I don't know whether, I guess, how do I word this? I didn't go into it with assumptions, I guess. And what this does is just gives us an outline of priority, with respect to what we need to do first. So the nice to haves the need to haves,
Right.
those types of
Yep.
things. It does identify that if we do want to go with solar panels, there's some work that has to happen in order, because currently it can't happen. So I think that would be a nice to have. But the need to have is the exterior wall being repaired. So I think that's what this will do, is guide the work that we have. We do have some funds within the capital budget this year. So projects would have to go out through the procurement process and and just bring them back to council for consideration.
Thank you. And I guess the other thing I'd noticed, some of the accessibility items that were in there that, in some ways, I guess not surprising given the age of the building, but by way of volume, for what we have in there, by way of washrooms and the like, and so on for work to be done.
Yeah, and in fairness, in looking at some of the accessibility things seem to be easy, like lowering things or, putting a handle or changing the handles of the doorknobs, so some of these seem easy. There's some things that do look to be like structural, so a little bit more difficult to do, especially if they're within, inside the building. Specifically the stairways and the landings in particular, because that might change, the angle of the stair treads and all that. But I think there's some definite things that we can do, and staff will look with it, obviously, with this report and to guide our work.
That's great. Thank you very much.
I didn't see who come on first, so we'll go Councillor Remy.
Through you, Chair. Just one, with a lot of these being like accessibility improvements and those types of things, I know that at the Accessibility Committee, they were chatting about a bunch of different funding opportunities. I mean, assuming, I know you guys, I know, and that's what I was just like, assuming you guys already know about them, but if not, then yeah, there was a whole listing that they had given us. So
excellent. Thank you.
Councillor Paul Wheaton.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and through you to Director Keogh. Just looking at some of the numbers here towards the end of it, the timber purlins and the steel trusses, those costs are only if we decide to go ahead with the solar panels. So those would be taken out if it was kind of status quo. So we'll be saving 130 some thousand there. Is there any kind of an idea of what solar panels would cost? Like, there's not an actual cost for the panels themselves, and what kind of timeline does it take for them to kind of pay for themselves? Do we have any idea of that?
That information.
Thank you.
Councillor John Smith.
Thank you, Chair. So regarding the flooding of the building, has that been taken care of so that it won't flood again?
No. So within the capital budget, we do have funds for flood protection improvements. So there's $187,000 within the budget to do that. So that will also be guided, I think, by some of the conversation. We do have a Design Point has designed a chamber type system to support flood protection. Foundation repairs would have to happen. So some of these things
crossover
happen either at the same time or, simultaneously, or, one right after the other. So there is funds within the budget to support the work for the foundation repairs and the flood protection improvements.
Good. I was glad to see there wasn't anything, serious wrong with the building.
Councillor Paul Morton.
Just try Councillor Whedon a little support on this. So 25 panels will cost you roughly 30,000. 13-year payback for them. 12-year gain at the end of it, because they're guaranteed for 25 years, roughly.
A wealth of information. No words, right? Just no words for this guy. So anyone wants to top that, go for it. Councillor Larry Pinch.
Thank you. Through you, Chair, to Director Keogh. So I guess when it comes to the flooding, are we certain that the foundation repairs and the other mitigation suggestion would make a situation in which we wouldn't have the flooding occur again downstairs? Because I know we had it once kind of repaired, some of that flooding things. We've had it happen again. So it would mitigate those concerns. So we wouldn't be flooding again should we put in these renovations to the building?
That is, from the recommendation coming from the engineers, that is my understanding. I wouldn't want to, say emphatically, it'll never, ever happen again. because I can't. Yeah.
No, I just wanted to make sure that they felt that was the cause, right? That these issues were the cause of the flooding and why it occurred both times, so that we are mitigating the cause so that it wouldn't happen again in the same way.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments, or anything to Director Keogh? Being none. Great. Thank you. So folks, we're 20 to 8. We're at public comment period. We have no public. And then we're going into in camera. So we would break in 20 minutes. So I'm just wondering if you want to take an early break now and come back and do our in camera, or do you want to keep on going? Keep on going? Okay, we're going to keep on going. So I need a motion to go in.
So moved.
Please. All those in favor? Show of hands. So motion approved. We're going to go in camera. So folks, we are going to be signing out. If there's any motions to be made coming out of camera, we will be back.